any one of us. And so we'll open the questions first.
Kind of a twofold question. First, for Congressman Conyers, are you suggesting or are you taking the position that you want the U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder to take over this investigation, to conduct a parallel investigation, let Dearborn Police conclude their investigation? That's question number one. And number two, are you troubled by what we know or apparently know about the FBI's methodology in this case that led to the chain of events on October the 28th, where they apparently investigated this for 2 years, infiltrated it, and then it led to their raid on the 28th and the shootout and the use of the dog to approach the Imam? Your thoughts on the second half of that question as well?
Yes, yes. Of course we're troubled. The problem is that I don't have any of the answers to the things that have concerned more than a dozen organizations that are here. And that's why I asked that there be an independent investigation. I want to commend those organizations and the media that have suggested that even before I came into this. All we want is simple fairness, and the fact that the police are doing an investigation that involves them presents a conflict that I would like to help them resolve. No, I don't want them to stop their investigation. They can go on with it. But the Civil Rights Division has already taken this up, and we're just pushing it along to a reasonable conclusion. I want to commend the organizations for the rational way that they've gone about this. There have been some pretty high emotion about a religious figure being shot 21 times, and nobody, as far as I know, has no idea of what it was that caused his death, what activity or what the circumstances were. And so we demand that our government give us the reasonable assurances of a complete investigation.
Okay. Other questions?
You have
Yes.
a time.
Go ahead, Pat.
You have a time in which you would like to see him begin this investigation? Have you suggested immediate action from the Department of Justice?
Well, it is not my custom to suggest to the Attorney General when he should start and how immediate he should conduct his investigation.
When would you like to see it begin?
Well, they called our office yesterday. I was in Houston on a Judiciary Committee hearing, and the Chief of Staff, my Chief of Staff, was advised that the Civil Rights Division had got my letter, or the Attorney General got the letter, referred it to the Civil Rights Division, and that they've begun investigation. They've begun their work already.
Congressman, the FBI says that in a fatal shooting, it's standard practice for its inspection division to investigate and then share the findings with the Civil Rights Division. Could that be what you're referring to, or are you referring to a whole different look by the Civil Rights Commission? The FBI says this is already standard practice for the Civil Rights Division to take a look at a fatal shooting.
No, I'm not trying to change the procedures established. So they can conduct their investigation, and they probably do it in cooperation with the Civil Rights Division, and they turn their findings over to them.
I guess what I was, I think we're all getting the impression here that they are doing this based on your strong urging. What I was trying to understand is the FBI is saying, we do this as a matter of policy anyway. I don't know if there's a I don't know if there's
That's
a,
not necessarily
if there's a
true.
distinction there.
That's not necessarily
This is
true.
what they were
Normally-
telling reporters
No,
yesterday.
they have their own agents that flew in from DC to investigate this, but the FBI agents. But once that report is submitted, if the Attorney General's office is not satisfied with the results, then they do conduct their own investigation. Because of Congressman Conyers' efforts, they're immediately going saying we are going to conduct an investigation before the investigation is actually completed, which is a real important to this community and to this coalition of civil rights organizations.
And I might add is that the FBI does, this is called the FBI shoot team. And they come in specifically to look at it from the standpoint of shooting. And ultimately, the question is whether or not it's a pejorative response, as the congressman is responding to. They conduct it from the aspect of what liability, responsibility to the agency might have existed, as opposed to looking at it from the standard of what the civil rights organizations and the activist organizations have raised, whether or not there was some wrongdoing possibly of a criminal nature, or shall I say at the very least, whether they violated their own protocols. That raises the standard, and certainly in terms of hate crimes, it raises the standard to a different level. What the congressman has proposed is something akin to what happened in the civil rights movement, that in many cases you had the FBI investigating Klansmen, and they were Klansmen. So essentially what happened is the federal government then dispatched individuals in the civil rights area to begin to have the urging of the community to do an even more specific job. And I hope from a historical standpoint, that's different. That just puts the FBI and the Civil Rights Division on a more equal level.
If I could say something too, just from a matter of also restoring community trust in the process. Many people in the community see the actual nature and the usage of agent provocateurs and how the whole scenario was set up to have been unethical at best.
Yeah.
There needs to be an outside party to investigate it, so even that people in the broader community will even have trust in the process itself, because as of right now, many people in the community don't trust the FBI to investigate itself. That's the bottom line.
And given that the FBI is part of the Justice Department, are you confident that the Justice Department can conduct an independent investigation?
Sure, that's what we've asked to have happen, and that's what is happening. And I'm sure glad to know that there are so many people that have been following the relationship of the Civil Rights Division to the FBI. I wish I could clear this all up with a one simple statement, but the point is that we've got both agencies now investigating. Let's hold our breath. Oh, well, no, don't hold your breath. Let's wait until we get the report. We've gotten an approval of the Civil Rights Division, and it may be true, as you assert, and I commend you for your knowledge, that the Civil Rights Division uses the FBI. That would not surprise me one single bit.
Congressman,
Okay, go ahead.
the fact that we don't even know what the final report is, we have one piece of the report right now. Is this just more, it almost seems like a knee-jerk reaction that there's so much, there's already a federal investigation, there's a local, there's a state investigation. Do we need another federal investigation coming in when we don't even know what the conclusion is at this point?
Well, let me put it this way. I'm not going to answer for the congressman, but I'll say this. If the congressman had not stepped forward, we were pushing for an independent investigation of our own. So we're glad he's going to do that, and we'll certainly look at it furthermore. I don't think it hurts to have as many eyes looking at this as possible. I think the circumstances are, if none of this works out, it's important to raise the standard in terms of how we investigate police shootings. And that's the real problem, is that none of these agencies have oversight. The Judiciary Committee has oversight over it all. And that's important in terms of reestablishing that. And as I mentioned before, multi-jurisdictional task forces essentially, a lot of times, operate on a rogue basis. They don't have oversight. So now, this is reestablishing that standard.
Just to follow up
If I-
what you
if I
just
may-
said a moment ago, hold on, one moment, sir, I just want to follow up with something that you said. What did you mean by if this doesn't work out?
Well, I'm just saying is that, you know, we had another conversation, you asked a
know.
question like that. You always seem to ask those hot button questions.
Throw it out there,
And
sir.
I like that. No, what we're saying is that, you know, the coalition had mentioned even some NGOs possibly being involved in this. We had mentioned, you know, maybe Amnesty International and other international organizations, because this is an international case. That's what I mean. I'm just saying we can raise